Hey there, everybody. I was just leaving home because I'm going to pick up a long lost cousin from downtown San Diego, bringing him up to Thanksgiving. His car broke down. So I just pulled into the gas station and, ah, standing there waiting in line. I'm about to buy gas and the machine's not working. The premium is $5.19 right now. The 87 is $4.89. And a lot of times I'll choose the premium. I usually do because, you want what's best for your car and all that stuff. Just normal, everyday things that we consider. But, when you're thinking like 35 cents difference on a consistent basis, it adds up. And it's just, anyway, so I go in the gas station. I'm going to prepay like $30. And I'm watching this young woman out the door in a nice Lexus SUV. And you can see just by the way she's looking in the mirror of the rear view mirror that she's sad about herself. You could see her shoulders go down. There was just something about the way she was looking in the mirror and the way she closed it and the way her shoulders slumped. And it's one of those moments that you wish that she could see herself from my point of view. Because I'm looking at this beautiful young woman, and it doesn't matter that she's young. This beautiful woman who's sitting in this Lexus, and I'm just taking in the moment without judgment. I'm just observing it. I'm not even trying to make a commentary on it culturally as much as I'm looking at this young woman and thinking how beautiful and just amazing it is that she gets to be, that she gets to exist, that she's in that particular moment of her life. But she's looking into the mirror at herself, and she sees herself through a lot of judgment and probably a lot of pain, probably any number of things, that could be a part of her story that could lead her to feel that way about herself. And that's just a moment in the line, and then I pay, and then I go out to the car. And what I've been noticing recently is that I got into this habit of sharing messages with a very close friend in Texas, voice over COVID. Instead of texting, instead of emailing, instead of FaceTiming, it was just leaving these long, in the moment voice notes. And it got to be this amazing way of having long, open, loving, kind, thoughtful conversation, over the course of a long period of time. Just an ongoing conversation, an ongoing place of connection. And over the months, I've noticed I've done this more and more with friends and even people I work with. It's just a way to communicate that has worked well for me. And more recently, I noticed that I am wanting to send messages to multiple of my friends. Because as I look into the faces of my friends in my mind, what I realize is I just want to connect with all of you from a place of an open heart and an open mind. And, I want to hear how you've been. I want to know what your journey has been like. I want to know what you've learned from your journey. I want to know where you hurt. I want to know where you love. And I recognize that on a day like Thanksgiving, I started thinking about who I wanted to text and what I wanted to say. And pretty soon I realized that I'm spending more time on my phone thinking about what I want to say or who I want to text. And then I'm not being present anymore. And I realized that all of you who I care about so much are all people who are quite present in your own lives. And, that's the way to be. We just have to tend to what's right in front of us and be in it. Be in the grace of our life that we've been blessed with. All the joy and the pain and the learning moments. So I just wanted to take a moment to share my heart with the people who I love and who I feel close to and that I've shared meaningful moments with in this life and on this journey. At this particular moment in life, and this is what the daily practice, this is what the daily journey, like sincerely doing the work on a daily basis, facing myself, facing my fears, facing the resistance in my body, allowing myself to feel the grief, to feel the sadness, to feel the responsibility, to feel the shame. And just progressively noticing that my mind and my body just kind of do what they have been trained to do by my life. And that I can just sit there and observe it and watch it in the moment. And it comes and it goes and it does feel, and I feel it. But the underlying resonance that allows all of that to be possible is this great sense of love beneath it all. And, I started this podcast in the past couple of years, and I really do enjoy it. And I've been away from it for a few months all of a sudden. I've done some shorter clips and all that, but I've been away from it for a few months because I'm just in this place of surrender. Just surrender, surrender, surrender. Surrender thoughts, surrender ego impulses, surrender things I think I should do, attachments, reactions, arguments that don't need to be had, impulses in the body that don't need to be acted out. So I've just been in this place of recognizing, instead of moving on again, instead of jumping right back into the next project or the next obligation or, the next business relationship or the next intimate relationship, whatever, the next thing that I take responsibility for, I want to face the things within my body and my mind that I know are holding on and that are in resistance or in fear. And it's amazing that, when you think about change, you think about healing, you think about what we need as individuals and what we possibly need as a nation. What you recognize is that we can try our damnedest to be conscious about our actions and our choices and our behaviors and our relationships. But it's the stuff that's stuck to your bones. It's the stuff that's stuck to your guts that finds you pulsing in anger to something you might not even fully understand. You sense something or you perceive something about what's happening in the world rubs you a certain way and your body and mind respond in a certain way and you attach language to it in a certain way and pretty soon you're in opposition to your best friend or your wife or your husband or your children over ideas that have been created, that have been put in front of you. I don't want to sacrifice love. I don't want to put a block in front of love because of a bunch of ideas and attachments and beliefs and fears, really just fears about what will allow us all to live the longest or be the safest, to be more unbelievably privileged than we already are. So I've been taking this time and facing my shit and slowly, gently, steadily finding that gratitude is not something that we read in a book or we read in a daily whatever, or that we think about. Gratitude is an experience in the moment. To be in the sensation fully of the body, to allow the mind to be connected to the greenness of the trees or the blueness of the sky, or just the resonance within the body, the emotional excitement of being alive within the body, and just being in it. So I just took a pause, and I was sitting here breathing as I'm driving, going to pick up my cousin, looking into my mind and just where my perception is in this moment. Again, recognizing that to be, really in the moment is to be here in this car on this drive, looking at the beautiful landscape of San Diego. Northern San Diego County is just such an unbelievably beautiful landscape. And I was noticing part of why I started recording today was imagining I was sitting at a table with all of you. I just, to imagine sitting at a Thanksgiving table with every single person that you would want to share space with in a place of love and joy. What would that be like? What a cool thing to ponder. And I just think it's also amazing that we even have the ability to ponder something like that, to envision things in our mind and to put our willingness and our intentions behind it, to literally speak things into being by attaching language to the sensations and the ideas in our body and interacting with the world in a certain way. So I was imagining all y'all sitting around the table, and I was recognizing that everyone is just present in their own lives and doing their own thing, and that I'm so happy that everyone is in their own lives and in their own place and doing their own thing, and I hope you're all tending to your lives in an awesome way. And if you're hurting, I hope you know I'm here. And if you're happy and joyful, I'm happy and joyful for you. And part of what I was also kind of laughing about is, I hear everyone, I just see these pop-up ads about, things not to talk about at Thanksgiving. And it is sad to me. I think it's quite an issue. It's actually quite a thing to analyze. It's a symptom. First of all, what I was laughing about is the fact that imagine sitting around the table with the people you love and actually being able to talk in a very open, very honest, very non-judgmental, very curious way, rather than assuming your narrative is righter or better than the rest of the people around you because of your experiences or your credentials or your intelligence or whatever. Just recognize everyone is walking around collecting data and experiencing this life in their own unique way. And whether the way it comes out of them, how it computes, whether it's accurate or inaccurate, you can be in the present space with them and meet them where they are at in a compassionate and graceful way, a loving way. And that's ultimately how people grow. That's how people heal. That's how you bring people out of their shell and give them permission to be more than they are. If you look down upon people and tell them what's wrong with them, or how foolish they are, how stupid they are, how wrong they are, all you're doing is reinforcing something that no doubt they've experienced their whole life. Because if you look at them and you think they're stupid, how many other people have thought that and made them feel like they just don't matter, or like their point of view is worthless? They feel worthless. And so I was imagining sitting around with my friends and loved ones, and the reality is I'm so fortunate to hold company with people who I love all over the place that I know I can be really honest with, who are also really honest with me. And what else could you ask for in life, really, than those kinds of relationships? And I have those kinds of relationships in abundance. And I feel that joy in my body because of those relationships, and that's why I'm sharing my voice with you right now. And, I'm talking just like I would talk to you in the moment. I go off on a tangent, come back to whatever it is I'm wanting to share, whatever's in the top of my mind, whatever I'm observing or noticing. And part of what I was noticing is that the way I'm facing the day-to-day life, my life right now is, and part of what I was observing as I was looking at this beautiful landscape was, in order to connect with others, in order to share with others, in order to be honest and share your honest point of view with the world, you have to step out of being in love with the moment around you. Like being saturated in love with it, being lost in love with it. In some ways you have to surrender in order to get into a space where you can put aside the way you interact with your life and meet someone where they're at in the present moment and just be in that space with them. So as I'm looking into my day-to-day life, I'm tending to the girls and I'm tending to my work, and I'm waiting for the Department of Defense and TRICARE to remedy a major accounting issue. They haven't paid 350 psychologists, including me, for a long time. And this is a big chunk of our livelihood. And, we are literally, if you look at all of us together, we are a network of providers that are like a blanket of service across communities for veterans and active duty military. And we're just not a priority. There's no place to complain. There's no hotline. There's no one to yell at. Everything's automated. Everything's protected. It's very hard to have a conversation with someone about ethics or what's right for clients. The fact that if you don't pay us, we can't keep doing this. And I'm, in my day-to-day life and facing these things, I'm tending to my life in the moment. I'm aware of how my life interfaces with the world around me, both online and in, everything I'm attached to. I'm attached to the cable company. I'm attached to the phone company. I'm attached to the water and the garbage company. I'm attached to the internet companies and everything out there. So I'm on a daily basis, just like you, I'm navigating the interconnectedness between my present moment experience and how my brain and my body is wired into this virtual world around us. We are so much further down the path of a virtual reality, a made up reality. We are so plugged in, we are so interfaced that I think it's so much further along than we are aware of. Certainly when you step far outside of it, you become aware of how deeply you have sacrificed or given yourself to this interconnected virtual world around us. And I'm pulling myself back for a second because I just want to say that in navigating my day-to-day life and noticing how I plug into the world around me and noticing the points of fear, the points of concern, noticing what I think about and what I pay attention to, and noticing how much we all feel shame and we avoid actually sharing our honest thoughts online because what if the trolls come? What if we get punished? What if we get fired? What if we get ostracized? This is not freedom. I want to be brave in sharing my thoughts. I want to be brave in sharing my words. I want to be honest with all of you because that's all that I got. That's the greatest expression of my freedom, is being able to speak honestly in this manner. The fact that I can do that says a lot about the space that I live in. On one hand, there are very real social norms and social consequences and laws and rules that are becoming normalized that are quite concerning because when people are afraid to speak honestly for fear of punishment, that is something to be concerned about. When people are afraid to speak honestly for fear of punishment or harm, that is something to be deeply concerned about. I am vastly more concerned about that than I am about COVID or short-term politics, short-term economics. So, and not that those things aren't valid, but I think that we are so distracted by the alarms going off in the short term, the breaking news that we're all fighting over, and the facts that we're all fighting over. And, we're literally living in different realities. It's ridiculous. Even for scientists should know better. If you can't control the basic variables in the equation, in the hypothesis, in your model, then you can't possibly measure outcomes in any sort of reliable, valid way. And people are living in different paradigms, different realities, different perspectives of reality with different facts and different values. And we're all trying to argue about common facts. We have lost common fact. We have lost common value. And when you add on top of it that people are afraid to speak honestly in the present moment for fear that they will be attacked, because we're all lashing out and acting out at each other. We've become so narcissistic that we all think we're so goddamn self-righteous and we're so right. But I rarely hear people who really seem to know what they're talking about. I listen to a lot of people. I really do a lot of homework. I cast a very broad net. In some ways, I've crafted my life so that I can cast a broad net of experience. And I'm just sharing honestly my perception in the moment. I think we stand to gain much more by being very curious about each other's point of view and meeting each other where we're at, in a place of love, in a place of compassion, in a place of nurturing, slowing things down, being patient, as if we're all good friends sitting around the Thanksgiving table and we can truly behave as if we actually do love one another. Because what's the point of all the rules and all the judgments and all the attacks and all the vaccines and all these safety measures if you're not acting from a place of love with your neighbors and your family? If you're acting from judgment, if you're acting from self-righteousness, if you're acting from better than thou, you're acting from a place of separation. You don't have an interest in actually having an interconnected, loving relationship with the person you're sharing with, because your language is designed to separate. And so these are the things I'm concerned about. If I'm reeling myself back in, my concerns about other things that people argue about, like vaccines or whatever, man, taxes, government, all that stuff, is ultimately, what kind of world are we co-creating? How can we take full responsibility for the fact that we are acting out the stories we have been told? We are acting out the stories of different entities of power that we're all intertwined with, and ultimately that are telling stories of separation and fear, and in the name of power and profit. These are the things that I would want to share openly in the moment, and I would love to hear genuine responses to, because I do believe we are living in an era. This is why I'm becoming more honest and more brave and sharing more openly and honestly, because I think we're in an era where we need to recognize that separating ourselves through language, by attaching our language to different ideas and tribes, we're making ourselves very weak, very susceptible. And here's the thing, I'm not a big conspiracy person, so I don't necessarily think that there's a well thought out plan of world domination, although I do think there are very intelligent people who lack empathy, who have no problem utilizing human beings as objects to provide for them. I think where most people are naive, and I know this because of the work I do for a living, is that there's an entire culture of human beings, millions and millions of human beings, that do not have empathy for your children. They do not have empathy for you. They do not care about whether you have food in your belly. They do not care about if you're cold. They do not care about your health care. They do not care about your racial tension. They do not care about your inequality. There is an entire class of people in the world, and it's very obvious once you stop living your life in a tribal sense or living in an ideological or belief-driven world, when you just step back and look at the stories that people are telling and how they're telling them and how they're acting out in their body, it's really clear that you have an entire class of narcissists, true narcissists, that lack empathy for your ethics, for your emotions, for your cause, for your well-being. And they see how you speak. They see how you act. They see your needs. They see your fears, and they exploit them. If you learn how to study narcissism, what you know is that an individual narcissist exploits the people that lack the boundaries that they can get close to, because people with good, healthy boundaries don't tend to get too wrapped up in narcissists. But I've been there, and when we get wrapped up, they are good at making us feel like they love us, like they care for us, like they value us, like we matter. But if you have ever had the unfortunate privilege of meeting a true narcissist, what you know is that there's a lack of care whatsoever for how you feel, physically or emotionally. And it's all about reading you to get what they can out of you, to provide supply. What we need to understand as a human species, this is my solution for the world. This is my grandiose, self-righteous observation that I make in my private moments. And I hear people proposing solutions to the existential threats of artificial intelligence or global climate change, the interaction of global climate change with nuclear war, any number of things that we are afraid of that are realistic threats, that are very, we have created many ways to harm ourselves as human beings. In a lot of ways, a realistic mathematical fact is that there's just many, many, many catastrophes waiting to happen. And that's not a Debbie Downer point of view. It's the fact that we've built something that is not being patched up very well. And I see it in my day-to-day life and the bureaucracies that I work with. And I work with the bureaucracy of the military, the Department of Defense, the Veterans Administration, the insurance system, the medical system. And you see these things falling apart and not providing good service. And people can't talk to each other because they're afraid and they're hurting, they're broke. And we are all being separated and manipulated by narcissistic entities that have organized themselves into systems of power, and they are exploiting us in all sorts of ways. And good people, and what I mean by good people is people that care about their neighbors, people that can't hurt their neighbor or their child or their pet or a perfect stranger, because you feel compassion, because you know that stranger is an extension of you. What I would want to share with my closest friends around the Thanksgiving table, what I would want to share with anybody, is that we have to come to grips with the fact that the true threat to all of us is that there is a class, there is a culture of people who completely and totally lack empathy for your needs, for your perspective, for your spirituality, all of it. You can call them evil, you can call them sinful, you can allow yourself to be manipulated by religious rhetoric or tribal rhetoric, by political rhetoric, all the rhetoric that separates you into tribes. The moment you are separated into a particular type of ideological tribe, you are no longer exercising true freedom. And we become susceptible to being exploited by those people who do not care about your point of view. All they want to do is utilize you as a form of fuel, as a form of supply. And as long as we fight, as long as we click, as long as we punish our language, as long as we punish each other for what we have attached ourselves to in the interest of just trying to survive, everyone just trying to survive, everyone just trying to matter, everyone is just wanting to get to experience this planet that we call home with a sort of gratitude, with a sort of excitement, with a sort of curiosity. Like, isn't that what we all want, is just to get to enjoy the present moment with our friends and family without feeling like we are under threat at all times? We are all under threat by our ideas, by our fears, by our emotional attachment to these ideas, and the fact that we allow ourselves to be exploited by entities of power that manipulate us very well and very easily. And what I was referencing earlier is that gratitude is an experience, that the more I've let go of thoughts and fears and ideas and separations, the more I've just allowed myself to be really open to whoever's in front of me, even a pet or a child or a client or a friend or a family member, is that I feel great gratitude in my body for the fact that I'm alive, that literally I'm inside of a body that has the ability to experience and feel love and feel hope and feel hunger and feel lust and feel joy and feel anger. And when I can step back and observe the fact that I get to be, the fact that I get to be is enough. And I can start to interface with the world around me from a place of love, a place of honesty, and I can invite people around me to do the same. And we can start to co-create from a place of genuine, valuing honesty, valuing love, valuing a person who is doing their best to figure it out, even if you think they're wrong, and meeting that if you think you know more, if you think you've studied more, if you fancy yourself a more knowledgeable person, then that means you also have found the knowledge and the wisdom of empathy and humility and patience. And you can slow down and meet someone where they're at and let them know that you love them enough to sit there with them and help them through the fear that is finding them wrapping those ideas around things that harm, things that separate. So I love you all. If you're listening to now, I thank you for letting me go off on my Thanksgiving share. I won't call it a rant. Sharing my share. At the end of the day, what keeps me going in a positive, optimistic way, where I get up every day and I tell myself to not be an asshole and I just make a choice about how I want to interact with the world around me in the present moment. What I know is that we have these amazing tools at our disposal, and I'm using one of them right now, and that these tools are capable of speaking our thoughts and our emotions and our values and our truth into being. We are speaking our fears into being. We are speaking our exploited beliefs into being. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of a global magnitude. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than it is. It's ideas connected to sensations in our body, emotional stories, histories. We are all telling stories and we're all acting out stories and we're all blaming other people for the stories we have experienced and the pain that we are in. And there's an entire class of people that we could call narcissists or whatever, but there is an entire class of people who completely lack empathy for your pain. And good, thoughtful, empathic, loving, kind, caring people need to recognize that the world is out of balance. We can't be overly feminine or overly masculine, because when we do, we're out of balance. And when one side is overly feminine and the other side is overly masculine, of course we're going to have conflict, and of course we're going to be easily manipulated. We need to find balance. We need to learn to be able to speak honestly from a place of love and strength. To make yourself strong against those who are willing to manipulate you. We need to use these technological tools, these gifts, in a very responsible manner. Anyway, I love you all. I hope that you feel like you could share your honest voice, and know that I want to hear your voice. Anybody that's receiving this, I do want to hear your voice. I want to know how you've navigated this life and what your answers are and what your experience has been like. And I'd love to walk next to you, and I'll be as honest as I can in doing so. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.